So this is with regards to this, what the language that we have, the different, what is the tool that we have selected for testing the web-based applications. Okay. Yes. So as part of our course curriculum, we'll be looking into the Java as like a language that is supported as like language binding for the Selenium. Selenium is a tool. This tool will help you to automate the web-based applications. Okay. So web-based applications and Selenium WebDriver, the WebDriver is the component that we are going to select. Okay. So we have a lot of components in Selenium. So that down the line we'll be discussing. That is IDE, RC, WebDriver, and then we have like a grid. Okay, so today it's kind of like a brief discussion about like what the language that we are using, and few we are going to see what are the tools that we are going to use and for automating our application. So that is supporting tools, and what are the different things that will be considered as part of the automation. Okay, so within this Java, we'll be discussing about like what is Java. So this is very basic thing that is like it's everybody knows it is a high level programming language. So when we say that this programming language is like it will help you to design the business applications as well as like mobile applications, as well as like it will be helpful for designing desktop applications with the AWT components. In this, we are going to discuss about what are data types that we have, data types supported, and how do we create the variables, what is the use of variables. Then we are going to see the control statements. Then we are going to see the conditional loops, and then we'll see about like what are constructors, and why do we use the constructors. Then we are going to look into the hooks concept, which would majorly cover about like class, object, inheritance with examples. Okay, so inheritance, polymorphism. Then we have encapsulation and data abstraction. Now after this constructor, we have another one is like access modifiers. Okay, so our access modifiers would be like private, public, protected, and default. So, and after this, we are going to discuss static and static variables, instance variables, static method, instance blocks, and why do we use this instance variables. All these things will be discussed here. So after that, we will be looking into the exception handling. So exception handling along with the exceptions that we are going to generally encounter when we are trying to execute our scripts. Okay, so what are checked exceptions, unchecked exceptions, throws, throw keyword, try catch blocks, finally blocks. And here another thing I need to add here is like there's a final keyword that we are going to use. So after this, we are going to see the file handling. So how do we handle these files in terms of like we have file reader, file writer, buffer reader, buffer writer, file input stream, output streams, and how do we read that file in the Excel file as part of our data-driven testing. Okay, so reading data from the Excel file and writing data to the Excel file. Then next we have like strings. So this will be discussed as we're done with the hooks concepts. So in this, we are going to discuss what is string, why string is immutable, what is string constant pool, and what is string literal, what is the difference between string object and literals, what is string buffer, what is string builder, what is the difference between string buffer and string builder. So these things we are going to discuss as part of strings along with the programs. So we have a lot of programs that will be discussed as part of this. And here one more thing I just forgot to add it is like we are going to discuss about arrays also. Okay, so arrays, along with the arrays, we are going to discuss a lot of programs with the arrays. So interview programs, basically we are going to focus on like what exactly will be asked as part of the interviews and how do we build the logic. Okay, so that is what we are going to discuss as part of our school. So after this, we are going to discuss about like collections. So this is collection framework, which is very popular during this interviews as well as like You have to know what are the different collections which are available and what are the implementation classes of it. So this will be discussed as part of our core Java. So collection framework. Till collection framework, it's kind of like we have core Java. After that, we have advanced, like still we have something called servlets and Hibernate. So these are the different components that we have as part of Java. But core Java is mandatory for tools actually. Okay, so to automate the application with the help of like a Selenium tool. Okay, so don't worry about your prior experience with programming languages. If you don't have any experience, so need not to worry about it. We'll be starting from the scratch because we'll be discussing about what is data type, what is variable, control statements. That's nothing but if else, nested if, switch statements, conditional loops, for loops, advanced for loops, and while loops. Okay, so do while. So all these things will be discussed. Constructors, what is constructor, why do we use constructor? Okay, so these all things will be discussed as part of the core Java. Okay, so everything is like from low level to the advanced. Like you'll become expert once you just try to understand the programming logic as well as like how to build the logic based on the problem statement. Okay, so I'll define this problem statement. So there are a lot of things, guys. So here in arrays we are going to discuss about the programs like how do we find out the duplicate arrays, duplicate elements in an array, and how do we do the one rotation, left rotation, right rotation of the array, and how do we find the second largest element in the array? How do we sort this array? Okay, so all methods, like not only the one approach, but I'll explain you the different approaches in it. So in case of strings also, we have like number of strings, duplicate strings, replacing strings. And if you have some special characters or characters which are defined as part of strings, how do you separate them? And the other thing is like if you have some numerics, how do you use that numerics to print those number of times the strings and find out reversing the strings and find out any duplicate with different methods. Okay, so how do we find out the repetition of the same string within a given array, a string array? Like how do we use those methods to find out that those things? Okay, so and other basic things are like you can see there are Fibonacci series, factorials, prime numbers, odd numbers, even numbers, and the other things. Okay, so whichever is like feasible for us, like whichever will help us to build the logic. So those things we are going to discuss. Reversing the numbers. So these are the basic things that we are going to discuss as part of basic programs. For advanced also, we are going to discuss a lot of programs during the during discussion of this particular concepts. So this is all about like Java, core Java. So this is more than enough for us to have the good command and the programming. And with the help of this, once we learn this, so we'll be jumping onto the Selenium. So this is like, Selenium is like a tool, which is like, it is comprised of the different components actually. Okay. So we call it as like, IDE, RC, WebDriver, and Grid. So in WebDriver, basically we have started from 2, then 3, then now it is like 4. Okay. So these are different versions that will be taking the latest one, and we are going to discuss about the programs on it. And Grid also, we have the latest one. So in this, we have a standalone, which is recently added. So which will help you to host both hub and node on a single system. Okay. So then we'll discuss about how do we configure this hub and nodes different system. But in case of our course curriculum, I'll show you how to do it. Only thing is like you need to just select the servers. If you have a different machine, you can just configure the servers. Okay, so the configuration is nothing but you have to provide the IP address. For now, what we are going to do is like we are going to use the standalone for acting on the standalone. We'll be using our same machine, and for configuring the hub and nodes for this Grid configuration, we'll be using the same machine. Okay, so but here we have a different ports. Here we are going to use the same ports. Okay, we'll discuss about what is port, what is IP, and what is the difference between these things, hub and nodes, everything in detail. So this is all about like configuration of this Selenium. The WebDriver, we have a lot of things that we are going to discuss as part of WebDriver. So in this WebDriver, we are going to discuss like how do we identify the objects, identification of objects. So before that, we'll be discussing about architecture. So what is architecture of Selenium? So this is very important to understand, guys. So we have some changes evolved. when we are moving from the versions to versions. Then architecture, we are going to discuss what is Selenium, what are language bindings, what is W3C consortium protocol that we are using, how these things will be connecting, like how this request will be passed to the actual browser, what is the use of browser drivers. Then other thing is like we have web driver manager. So this is like we have this component which is delivered from the Garcia. So these are like different classes that we are going to use for handling this Chrome drivers to interact with the actual browsers. Okay, so you'll be executing this scripts on Chrome, Firefox, and Edge. Then we'll see what are the synchronizations in Java. And Selenium. I'm sorry for that synchronization. Always implicit wait, explicit wait. And then we have fluent wait. And we have static threads. Thread.sleep, what we say generally. So why do we use this? So we are going to discuss about this. And all the components that are available on the web pages. Like we have text boxes, text areas, checkboxes, drop downs, radio buttons, drag drop, elements. Then, yeah, basically whatever we have as part of this, I can show you this one. Okay, so today I'm going to show you the samples of like, how do we exactly create the scripts and how do we execute this as part of like automation. Okay, so these are like you have I'm taking this application because we have a lot of things that we can do as part of these applications. Okay. So here. You go to the job. Qualifications of the job. Okay, there are a lot of things, guys. So this will be discussed as part of like everything will be covering. Okay, everything will be covering as part of this. Because there are like text boxes here. So we see sometimes we have a some kind of drop downs here. You can see this is a drop down. How do we handle this drop down? How do we handle this? This is another text boxes. How do we handle this text areas? And you can see this is like radio buttons, like check boxes. Sorry. So here you can see check boxes. And when you go to the dashboard, there are links also available. How do we handle the links? You click on this, it is moving to the next pages. So again, drop down, selecting the drop down and handling this. You can see there are like, this is like text kind of a text boxes that we have. How do we enter the data? So all these things will be discussed as part of the course curriculum. So after this, we have object identification. This object identifications will be discussed after we kickstart with the Selenium. Okay, so this is basic part, and we have a lot of things like we can identify the object with help of ID, name, class name, link text, partial link text, and we have XPath. This is a language actually, XML path. So identifier. So this we are going to use. Another one is like CSS selector. So this is also kind of a mechanism where we are going to use for identifying the objects. So ID name, class name, link text, partial link text, XPath, CSS selectors. Okay, so we'll see a lot of things as part of like XPath also. In XPath, we have different functions that we are going to use to identify the element. So here we have my generic syntax for this videos. Syntaxes. I mean, I'll help you to create the syntaxes or else create the XPath for identifying the element in terms of both relative path, absolute XPath. We'll discuss what is its relative path, absolute XPath. Then after we have methods called contains, text, and then we have like normalize space, and then we have like these are the things as part of like XPath, and then we have like accesses. Okay, so accesses. So this accesses would be like we see that parent, child, parent, child. Then we have like following, sibling, preceding sibling, preceding, following, and ancestors. Descendants. So these are the different accesses that we are going to use for identifying the elements. Okay. So for CSS selectors, we have different methods that we have, like we have star. So for start, like contains, ends with, starts with. Okay. So these are the symbols that we are going to use. After this, we have nth child, nth type of, nth type. Okay. So nth of type. So these are the different options that are available as part of identifying the elements with the help of CSS selectors. Okay, so we'll see what are the different things that we can do as part of CSS selector also. So after the synchronizations, after this text boxes, then we have actions classes here. Actions classes is like replicating our actions. Whatever we do as part of like keyboard actions, that will be covered as part of actions classes. Then we have like select classes. Then we have like select classes. Then after we have alert. How do we handle the alerts? And then we have frames. Then we have like JavaScript executor. So JavaScript executor. So this is like we have interface. This interface. How do we use this interface? And how do we typecast this interface to the WebDriver? And how do we handle this? Drag drop. If something is not working, for example, if you want to scroll this page, okay. So we have scroll by, scroll to, and then we have like scroll into the view. Sometimes you see that some object, we need to click on this object. For example, if you want to click on this object, but WebDriver, what it does is like it's going to identify the element, but it's not going to that particular place. In that case, we get the exceptions. Okay. As part of this WebDriver, we are going to see the exceptions also. Okay. So element not found exceptions, no such element exceptions, stale exceptions, element not interacted exceptions, element click intercepted exceptions, null pointer exceptions. So these are the different exceptions. In general, this will be asked as part of like interview. And when do we get it? How do we handle that? That we are going to discuss. Okay. So JavaScript executor. Then we have So we'll be using take screenshot. So this is one other interface. I'll show you what is that basic interface actually. So this will be discussed as part of our architecture itself here. So what is the super interface? So such context is a super interface. Okay, so here we have two methods. One is like find element. So generally in interviews, they are going to ask you what is the difference between find element and find elements. Okay, so these are the two methods which are available as part of super interface, that is search context. So after this, we have WebDriver. In that WebDriver, we have remote WebDriver. Remote WebDriver is like implementation class of WebDriver. Again, in that remote WebDriver, we have implementation classes like Chrome driver, Chrome browser, Chrome browser, Firefox browser, Edge browser, Safari, and HTML browser. So all this things will be as part of like implementation class of WebDriver. And after this, we have TestNG. Okay, so TestNG here we are going to discuss in detail about. There are a lot of things that will be considered as part of TestNG. We have annotations, different annotations. Here we'll be basically covering about like how do we design the framework with help of TestNG. Okay, so this is nothing but we are going to design the framework. We are going to discuss everything about like TestNG. What is TestNG? How do we handle this TestNG? What is class in the TestNG? What is test? And what is suite? And then after we are going to discuss about that annotations. We have after there are a lot of annotations after before suite, before class, before test, before method, test, after class, after suite. Then we have like data provider annotations. Then we have like listeners. Then after that, within that listeners, we have annotations, annotation listeners. So that will help you to retry analyzers. And then we have different configurations like depends on method, depends on groups, and ignoring that particular group, executing or skipping the execution. Then we are going to cover about like parallel execution. How do we do the parallel execution? And generating report for generating HTML report and validating the things. Okay. So this is like we are going to check what are the things that we are going to cover as part of like HTML report, how this report will be generated. So these all things will be covered as part of TestNG. Okay. So a lot of things are there. So those properties we are going to apply and we are going to learn how do we handle this test execution. So as part of like TestNG. Then we have a Maven. This is like a dependency configuration. So this will take care of like, configuring the required dependencies for that particular project. Okay. So we'll create the Maven project. So with the help of like Maven, this is nothing but build configuration tool. So this will help you to drive the execution. Execution part will be taken care. Okay. So this will be like XML will be configured. So TestNG XML. Okay. TestNG XML file will be configured as part of Maven. So that I'll show you like how do we configure that. So that part will be taken care as part of like Maven configuration. Then we have like log4j. So this will be recording the logs actually, okay, in files as well as like console. And after that, we'll be going with Git, okay. So Git or GitHub. You'll see that this is nothing but version controlling tool. Okay. Source configuration, or we can say version controlling tool, okay, VCTR. So after that, we have a Jenkins. Okay, so Jenkins is nothing but CI/CD pipelines that we are going to create. So through this pipeline, we are going to do the execution. Okay, so this is the course, guys, actually. Okay, so then we have like another thing, JDBC. How do we connect with the database and how do we are going to do with the help of like MySQL. Okay, so another thing I forgot to add is here is like we are going to add the extent reporting. So these are the things that we are going to cover as part of our course, guys. Now you can see, I hope like you got a detailed idea. What are we going to do exactly with the course content? I mean, like what the duration would be like. Now you can assume like it is, we have a vast thing that we have to discuss. So because of that reason, we have recommended people to have be patient. And the thing is like it is a wider scope that we have, and there is a lot of things that we'll be covering. And I appreciate people to do a daily practice on this and come up with the questions. Okay, so the course duration is like 2.5 months, and 15 days is for manual testing and 2 months is for automation testing. Automation testing will consist of all the things that we have jotted down here. Do you have any questions for me, guys? And we'll be discussing about like hybrid framework at the end with the page object model approach. Okay, this is a pattern that we are going to use. Okay. So for today, yeah, another thing is like what is the ID that we are going to use to develop the scripts? We are going to use Eclipse. Okay, Eclipse ID. So integrated development environment. So this will be helping us to create the project for Java as well as like Maven projects. Okay. So sample, I'm just going to create a simple program. So wherein you'll be understanding how do we exactly use this ID. Okay. So just I'll create a new workspace. Don't worry about today. Like just I'm going to show you like how do we create the new workspaces and all. And tomorrow we'll be like looking into this Java, Selenium. So we'll write some basic programs. Just for today, I'm going to show you like a couple of programs. How do we execute them and how do we see the output and what is the problem statement of it? Okay. Closing this here. I'm going to create a basic Java project. I'm naming it as like so all related components are available here. So what I'm going to do is like here I'm going to create a class. Okay, don't worry about what is class, what is that exactly I'm going to create now. Just focus on it like we are going to write some program so that we need some output out of it. Okay, expected out of it. So how do we build the logic end? Okay, so I'm just creating class here. Sample. Here we are going to write some main method. Within this, I have something right. I want to just show up like I want to do some addition of two variables, values, two values. Okay. Sum out sum of B's just we are trying to execute one program here. So what is that? This is nothing but sum of A and B. Okay. So this is like kind of a basic program. We have a class and we have package name. Here we have a main method. In that we have some variables defined and we want to put something on the console. Okay. So this is like a basic program that we are looking into it. So this basic program will help you just to understand, like we have a class here. This is a environment that we are trying to develop and we have created a class. In that class, we are going to put the logic. Okay. So likewise, we have a lot of things we'll be discussing about, like how do we find out the even numbers, odd numbers, prime numbers, factorial, Fibonacci series, Armstrong. And then we are going to discuss about reversing of the numbers without using any predefined functions in the string. And after that, we'll be looking into some other programs. If you have any programs, and we can discuss on that programs also. Okay. So I will see that how do we print the prime numbers and how do we print the prime numbers in between 1 to 100. And after we'll be continuing with the rest of the process as we discussed about. Okay. So to show you, this is like very simple program, but when we consider, like if we want to have this Selenium. So for that, we have some dependencies. Those dependencies should be added here. Okay, jar files are dependencies. We'll see how do we add the dependencies in Maven and how do we add the jar files as part of like Java programs. Okay. Yes, guys, it is open for you. Like, do you have any questions for me?
Shrikant, actually, I'm totally from a non-IT background, so can you please also guide me to how to download this application?
Yeah, sure. Everything will be discussed about it from scratch. Like, this is like only I have these things which is already in place. So what I'm going to do is like, I'm going to show you each and everything in detail, like the step wise. Okay. So we'll be doing during the classes for the few days. I'll be helping out in installing the Java, setting up the path, installing the IDs, and then how do we create this project and how do we create the classes and how do we write the logic. So initially, for initial days, for few days initially, I'll be helping out with this. Okay.
Okay.
Any other questions, guys? So happy programming, guys. This is very interesting. You believe me or not. So there are a lot of things that we can achieve with this, and you feel confidence once you complete this course. But make sure that you should have patience and please practice. Practice is important. Okay. Please practice it. Even I do forget a lot of things because of the lack of practice. But the thing is, like when you practice it, you'll remember. If you don't practice, this will be gone. This is very, very tricky thing. Okay, programming is like very tricky. If you practice it, if you are on the same path, like in a daily basis you are doing consistently, then you'll remember. Otherwise you'll forget. That is for sure. Okay. So whatever we are going to discuss will be discussed as part of interviews and the experience. Okay. Out of my experience, I have 12 years of experience. I spoke before, right? So as I have handled a lot of tools. So here it's like I'll try my level best to put everything in place. Okay. So I'm going to consider the experience that I have during the interviews and as part of like panel member also, I know what are the questions they are going to ask. And if you are through with this, through with the course, then I can definitely say that you will be placed in multinational companies definitely with a good package. This is assurance from my end, and have patience and try to build up the logic. So if I'm trying to give something, so I'll intentionally make some mistakes during the program. So I'll be asking you to give the logic for that. Okay. So no person in this world makes a mistake. Like, it's not a perfect guy. Everybody makes a mistake. So the thing is like, if you make the mistakes, then you are in the right path. If you are not making the mistakes, then you are not trying it out. So that's what I have from Anil. That is what I was just expecting from you guys, to have the mistakes done every day and learn out of it and try to build up the logic. If, for example, if I'm writing some logic, you can come up with some other logic. Okay. So no logic in this world is like, can give the exact solutions to the problem statements. Okay. So I appreciate you guys to have this patience and practice consistently and come up with the questions if you have any. Okay, if I start writing something like complex program here, so you'll be surprised to see this. For example, if I'm going to find out some, I'll just give a glance out of it. Okay. So we have something here. like 2, 3, 6. Let me put it in this order. I'll put in a jumbled one. Six, 5, 4. So I've just created an array, right? So this array has the elements which are like, unorganized. I want to organize them. Okay. So what I'm going to do is like, I'm going to write some statements here, program statements. See, what I'm going to do here is like, I want to arrange them in a ascending order. Wait a second. Okay, why do we use this static and all? Everything we will discuss. This is nothing but instance variables. That's not what we have defined it at class level, and I'm just making it as like static, right? Don't worry about all these things, what is static and all for now. So I'm just writing a program so that it will arrange everything in a order. So you can see this is like arranged in a ascending order. Okay. So 0, 2, 4, 5, 6, 9, 11, 35, 78, 90, 101. So this is nothing but we have like sorting mechanism. So what is that we are using here is like we are just swapping the values. We are comparing values and we are swapping it. Okay. So if you want in descending order, then we'll just change the sign here. So now this will be in a descending order. Okay. So it's from highest to the lowest. From lowest to the highest is like ascending order. So these are like simple programs that we are going to try it out during our. Okay. So we'll see what is that logic that we have applied. How do we build this logic and what is the pseudocode that we are going to explain. Okay. So all these things will be discussed. Okay, guys. So for today, I'll stop it here and tomorrow we'll start with that. Okay. So first we'll see that how do we install the Java and how do we set the class path and how do we install the Eclipse. Okay. So tomorrow it's kind of like, a session that will be kind of like a practical session for you guys also. Be ready with your laptops. Don't try to log in with mobiles, guys. Okay. Every time I appreciate you to have your laptops or computer systems logged in. Okay. So you have to log in through the computer system and just practice, like, whatever I'm doing here, just try to practice. I'll give some time, like, 5 to, like, you'll have like 3 to 5 minutes of time. Just jot down those programs and try to execute them on your machines. Okay. These are all, I appreciate you to have the live sessions, guys. Please join the live sessions and practice it.
Okay, Shrikant.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you guys. Have a nice day. Let's meet tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. Bye.